Good afternoon. Now, as a pastime, I coach one of Singapore's premier rugby sides, and normally if I wanted to get the attention of the room, it would start with a 5-kilometre run. But I think too close to lunch. Welcome to today's lunch programme. In partnership with Asia Square, which is why I'm here, the session is called The World in 2037, Asia on Demand. And I think you're in for a treat, a great selection of panelists with a very interesting topic that I think affects pretty much everything that we do in this room in Asia. 2 weeks ago, I turned 50. Hard to believe, I know. I have 2 teenage children. Again, pretty hard to believe. And I'm privileged to live in this fantastic city of Singapore. A city that's retained a large part of its architectural history. If you have time, if you're a visitor and you have time whilst you're here, go and look at Little India, go to Chinatown, go and experience the wealth of 19th century development that really expresses one half of Singapore. It's also a world-leading centre of technology and innovation. Fintech, biotech, pharma tech, and every other kind of tech. Technology and innovation, and innovation are visibly demonstrated in the world-class office buildings, the shopping centres, and the hotels that have been developed to support Singapore's growing economy. There are few cities in the world where you can enjoy the depth of this contrast. I think it's fair to say that I and my generation are privileged to have experienced the technology or digital revolution, and as a mid-centurion, I am constantly pushing myself to embrace that technology, to enjoy the benefits that the next generation, including my 2 teenage children, take for granted. Don't get me wrong, and despite the grey suit, I'm not out of touch and I am not a Luddite. Quite the opposite. I have embraced technology. I've even learned to text my son so that he can come down from his bedroom to help me use the remote control to turn up the volume on the television. Tan Shu-Stan, the Group Head of Consumer Banking and Wealth Management at GBS, will moderate a panel to discuss the growth of technology, which is perhaps accelerating the ability for business and trade to thrive outside of the traditional built environment. This panel will also discuss the infrastructure needs and what developers need to do to improve the link between the built environment, my environment, and the digital space. Now, I've been involved in the real estate industry in Asia for over 25 years, and over that time, I've seen significant change in the physical space that we live in, that we work in, spaces in which we socialize and shop, and let's not forget the places where our children are educated, and the hospitals that give us care. You may think it a little odd that as a developer and an owner of commercial property, I am hosting today's lunch and panel discussion. But when thinking about development, it is crucial that I and my peers consider the needs of the people that will work in the buildings and the visitors that will come to whatever it is they're visiting in those buildings. Along with other stakeholders, these groups form the community that will use the space. And here's the piece. If we design and build space just for today, then we have to accept that we will limit the capability of that space in the future. This is the push. Asia Square is just such an office development. I'm going to be shameless about this. We designed it for the future. Big, great, square, efficient floor plates that allow maximum flexibility for fit-out, whether it's a bank, whether it's a firm of lawyers, whether it's a trading company. multiple access points for power and telecoms for uninterrupted service. And perhaps what's really important for the next generation, it is one of the most sustainable buildings in Asia. And I could give you a whole presentation on that alone. Now, I expect, like me, that you're very interested to hear the panel discussion. But before I hand over to the moderator and the panel, I'd like to thank the Institute for inviting Asia Square to be involved in this year's summit. And I'd like to thank Laura and her team for the seamless organization. Thank you very much.
Next up, we will be exploring the world in 2037, Asia on Demand. Please welcome the panel and your moderator, Group Head of Consumer Banking and Wealth Management at DBS Bank, Tan Su Shan.
So good afternoon. I am thrilled to be sitting here in the middle, flanked by 4 handsome young men. But don't let their youth and good looks fool you. I am amongst titans in the digital disruption world, and they are in their own fields, true disruptors, particularly true disruptors in Asia. On my right, Patrick, who didn't let me down, he's wearing trainers. Thank God for that, otherwise you won't believe that, I'm amongst disruptors. Founder of iFlix, and I've often teased Patrick and his team that, iFlix is the Netflix of Asia, Middle East, and North Africa, and I get chided because he says he's everything that Netflix isn't. And of course, on my right, Mayor Ridwan Kamil.
Hello.
Who, in a short 3 years, he's the mayor of Bandung. And in a short 3 years, he's brought Bandung from number 200 in the government, government index, the government sort of performance index, from 200 to number 1. Astounding, and a lot of it could be due to your smart city background, your architectural background, but a lot to learn from Mayor here. On my left is someone. I think you probably all, if you live in Asia, you probably get about 4 SMSs from Grab every day. Do you? Because I do. And if you can't beat them, join them. So Grab, ubiquitous transport company. Unlike Uber, though, I think you want to own the taxis at some point. And then of course Rohan Madhavan, who is from PayPal. And also a bit of a geek himself, founder of his own software company, lots of engineering degrees. But possibly unlike some of us, they have decided to focus and do really well in their own space. So 2037, 20 years time, are you all going to be here? Or are some of you going to be in different sectors? You're going to be leaders in different sectors? Are your companies going to be here? And maybe, let's kick off with Patrick, since you're in entertainment, right? You've brought K-pop to Ghana, Korean soap operas to Ghana. You've changed the cultural landscape of Asia. Nobody needs to buy a TV or set-top box anymore.
Beautiful. Thank you for that intro. And I want to say thank you to the Milken Institute, because when I got the email a month ago saying, hey, Patrick, please join us for lunch, I didn't realize until I showed up that we actually were lunch.
No, they've eaten.
Asia on Demand, and it said 2037, and one of the things that I found, as an entrepreneur in these markets is that Asia is on demand now, like right now, not in 2037. And I'll tell you 2 lenses that we have. We're involved in a company called iFlix, and we're involved in an internet city that we're building in Malaysia with the Malaysian government. And when I look at something like iFlix, let me start with sharing you one statistic that I shared last year, and I'll update that. When we surveyed a number of our users in the Philippines 2 years ago, we said, if you were given a beautiful holiday in the Maldives for 12 months and you could only bring one thing with you, you could only bring your significant other or your mobile phone. 70% of people chose their mobile phone. So we did the same survey in Myanmar, which is a market where we just launched in for iFlix about 2 months ago. the exact same survey, and it was 85% of people would rather go to the Maldives on an all expenses paid trip with their mobile phone. And so it wasn't something peculiar to the Philippines. It really shows that this ability now for consumers to get everything and anything they want on the mobile phone is significantly greater than having a great trip with a significant other, because maybe they think they can get their significant other on demand through the mobile phone as well. So
That has real social consequences. Yeah?
and
We have a declining fertility rate in
so
Singapore.
it's
I thought all that.
I'm very curious to do the survey in Singapore one day as well. And so what we're finding is that in particular as entrepreneurs who build businesses, when you look at the top down, you look at statistics, there are these massive, massive tailwinds that are behind our business and some of the other businesses on this panel. Number one is this epicenter, this center of gravity that the mobile phone is. When people keep talking about, it's a digital world, it's digital disruption, always need to remind me, it's not a laptop world, it's not laptop disruption, it's smartphone disruption. No one is disrupting anyone on their laptop. It's all being done on the mobile phone. So everything you think about from a digital point of view needs to be centered on the mobile phone. You look at the number of mobile phones being bought in Asia every year, it completely exceeds every other region of the world by far. Number one, as a subset of that statistic, when you look at just Southeast Asia as a microcosm, which is a part of the world which most people ignore because they just think US, Europe, China, India, and by the way, Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia alone now has more smartphones than all of America, more smartphones than all of Europe. So when you think about a great disruptive business, one of the key drivers of how big a business you build is how big is your addressable market. Whereas we're now in a situation today, not in 2037, where the addressable market in Southeast Asia alone is actually bigger than all of Southeast Asia. So for anyone building a business in such as Grab or DBS building a digital bank, you can actually build a more valuable and a significantly larger business in Southeast Asia than anyone building a great disruptive tech business in America or Europe. Number two, the amount of people growing or entering the middle class every year in this part of the world, I think is a statistic that is often underestimated. It sounds great and it's a great stat, but I think what people realize is that not only is there 30 to 80 million people joining the middle class every year, this is almost the entire state of California all of a sudden have money to spend. It's when you think about the products that you sell and the products that you offer, particularly in our business, we're not convincing someone to go from product X to product Y, which is an American situation, right? Say in the US, Netflix is trying to get you to go from cable TV to Netflix. In many of our markets, people don't even have cable TV. So we're not even a substitution product. We are a new, engaging, highly informative product that people have never had access before. And if you all of a sudden go from lower class to middle class, you're excited, you have money to spend. You want a new home, you want a new car, you want air conditioning, you want a new shower system, you want entertainment, you want cars on demand, you want food on demand. Whereas in the West, I don't think we appreciate that. You want all these things, but you're already getting them in some way, shape, or other. If I want food in America on demand, I can just call Pizza Hut. Whereas if I want food in Asia on demand, a lot of the restaurants didn't have phone delivery systems.
If you want nasi goreng, you call
If you want
Grab.
nasi goreng on demand.
Grab food, right?
So I look at iFlix as an example where we're basically an entertainment system on demand, and we really call ourselves as Pay TV 2.0 because we're a paid service. What's amazing is that if I use Philippines and Indonesia just as a microcosm of the 40 markets that we're in, we now have more paying customers in those two markets than about 75, no, sorry, explain this a better way. We've only been in the Philippines for 2 years, Indonesia for 1 year. Based on our current trajectory of paid customers, in about 2 quarters from now, in Indonesia and Philippines, we'll have more paying customers on our app than the entire cable and satellite TV industry in those countries. So let me just say that again, and let me just qualify that with, if you study enterprise value across the media value chain, free-to-air TV, cable and satellite, radio, print, blah, 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 you'll find that the majority of enterprise value globally is in satellite and cable TV. This is a 30-year industry that has taken time to build. We're only 12 to 15 months old in Indonesia, yet we will completely surpass this industry in terms of number of paid customers in about 2 quarters from now.
So that's an interesting segue, Patrick, because I think it speaks to the speed and scale of Asia versus Western economies, doesn't it? And you can't just cut and paste a Western Netflix model into a Pan-Asian media entertainment company like yours. But then moving tack, Pak Ridwan, as the mayor of Bandung, you have brought a lot of smart city innovation, technology, and you've moved the needle for Bandung clearly. So share with us, the audience, what's your vision for a smart city, and what can Indonesia, or what have you done for Indonesia, and where do you see the way forward?
Yes, I'm now 45. I used to be an architect, practicing architects, professor in architecture and urban design. 2013, I went to politics, become a mayor of 2.5 million people, with Facebook user 2.2 million. Yeah, so I'm using this context to transform because Indonesia population is 250 million, mobile phone connection is 280 million. So it's a country where mobile phone outnumber the populations. So the poor family, they have mobile phone. So mobile phone now is no longer a luxury items. It's like television.
A necessity.
It's a necessity. So the last 3 years, I've been building almost 400 softwares. Yeah, from e-budgeting, from complaint online, from anything related to the government services. I fight corruption through the apps and these applications, where the citizen can oversee the government performance. So the last 3 years, because of this transformation, from ranking 200 for government performance index, 3 years later we are now number 1. Yeah, technically we are the best performing governments in Indonesia. And people like me now is many, many because many entrepreneurs, because of Indonesian decentralized policy in 2001, now people can become a mayor or governor, not always have to be the political party member. So personally now I'm independent, I'm not a political party member, and now I can become a mayor because of this Indonesia democracy system. So I think if I reflect what would be the trend in the next 20 years, I think my keyword would be engagement. People are getting more to have more expectation from the governments. That's why I'm using this smart city. I make it 3 steps. Number 1 is Smart City 1.0. It's basically just digitalizing all the manual from manual procedure to digital. Smart City 2.0 is interactive. People can directly complain. We have complaint online. Yeah. So every week I receive how many department has lots of complaint, which department less complaint, so I can fire like.
And all digitally?
Yeah.
So
I can do that.
People?
You are fired because too many complaints. Yeah.
Data analytics works.
And Smart City number 3.0 is intelligent infrastructure, where weather forecast can inform me as a mayor, be ready for flood, for example, for disaster and so on and so on. So I'm building that trend. But now, because of the keyword of engagement, now I have a software that I can read all the media social posted by my citizens. Yeah. So before they know it, I already give new service because they talk about it in social media. So without a formal engagement in parliament, I give a new program to satisfy their expectation. For example, last month, we have what we call visiting doctor programs. It's for the poor family. You can ask the doctor to come to your home through a mobile phone. Yeah. Wow. It's for the poor who can afford to the hospital. And when I calculate the budget, is cheaper to finance the whole system of this doctor visiting the poor
So
family.
the transport to the hospitals.
Yeah, so I buy many motorbikes for bring doctor to the slum area and so on and so on. So this is what I call engagement. It was I call you order a pizza, you deliver the pizza through the Grab. So you order doctor, I deliver doctor to motorbike.
Idea for Grab doctor?
So if you see this trend, it's the same. It's only because I'm now a government, I'm using the same logic. It's delivering service on demand through the mobile phone as the way we communicate to the people. One funny story is I even can stop political street protests because the day before I already know what's the agenda through my software. I can map the social media. And the way people now, when they have a meeting to protest, they posting the selfies during the meeting and writing the agenda of the political protest on the Facebook. So I read all
You
that.
already know.
So the day before, I fulfill the demand and no street protest.
Instant fulfillment. Wow. I think we're all moving to Bandung. But
So my point is, I'm using the whole army of technology with my political will to transform better service to the people, better communication. And what happened now, my approval rating is 92%. People who feel happy, thank you. Because they think if I'm very reachable, if not, even physically it's impossible, but they feel the mayor of Bandung is very reachable to your mobile phone. So now also.
do they have your number?
Yes, I have. I have 12 million followers.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's only 2.5 million people in Bandung.
Yeah, so followers everywhere. So I think now people who are happy because Bandung is the only city who exercise the new trend. We call it happiness projects. So I think happy people, advanced society is happy society. So in Bandung, we don't always calculate the progress by economical statistic, but how happy you are. So this is a very big step on how you make the development is like in full spectrum. So now, last month's survey, 87% my people are happy to be the citizen of Bandung. So technically, Bandung is a happy society of Indonesia, the happiest society of Indonesia, and also the smartest city. So,
Wow, so satisfied city, happy city, and smart city,
Yeah.
all going in line. Private sector, a lot to learn from the public sector. So let's change tack to land grabbing everything. I'm very scared of Grab, and I keep calling them because I think that they want to be a bank. You know, they've got wallets. Once you get wallets, you get deposits. Once you get deposits, you do loans, although they assure me that you don't want to ask for a banking license. But, you know, sector vertical lines are blurring. Ming, you were in Goldman Sachs and then SoftBank and now in the fastest growing transport company in Asia. Tell us about this journey, no pun intended. And also, you know, the last time I spoke to you, you said Grab is already disrupting itself. Now talk about speed and scale. You know, you've already arrived and you've already started to disrupt yourself. So talk us through that disruption.
Sure. First of all, I have to say I'm just so impressed by your social
We all
media
are.
savvy. I think I have 4 followers on Twitter, one of which is my mom, my dad, maybe 20 Facebook friends. It's incredible. Despite sending 4 SMSs to everybody in Southeast Asia, 650 million people.
We'll follow you.
Thank you. And again, thank you for the Institute for inviting me over. For those of you that are not familiar with Grab, I've been told by my PR department that we had to talk about Grab as the first sentence in any panel. Grab is the 3rd largest now ride-sharing business globally, behind our big brothers Didi Kuaidi in China, Uber in the US. We do about 3 million rides per day. 3 million rides
3 million
per
a day. Wow.
It adds up to about 1 billion transactions per year now across this population of 650 million people. Last year we were in 30 cities. Today we're in 112 cities. Half of that is in Indonesia, and we'll be in somewhere close to 150 by the end of this year. or more. So the speed of pace and the speed of growth has been tremendous. Some of that was fueled by SMS messaging, but hopefully most of that was fueled by providing a core service to our customers that really, really matter at the end of the day. I guess on the future city of the world, and I think for us, what we believe very, very strongly is it's all about applying technology and data to improving lives and solving real problems. And a very, very tangible problem is getting from Bandung to Jakarta. On a good day, that may take 3 hours in light traffic. And if we're able to reduce that by 30%, by 20%, then I think we've done a very, very good job for our consumers, for our drivers, for the community at large. We collect now 2 terabytes of data every day across our region. And the way we use that data is we use that to make transportation much, much more efficient by reducing traffic on the road. So we launched pooling, which is a shared service. You can take a ride with two people, 2 or more people. And within the regions in Singapore and Indonesia, through our pooling system, we have taken 16,000 cars off the road, permanently off the road.
Wow.
That's 16,000 less cars in traffic. That's 16,000 less cars of pollution. Hopefully that means faster travel time between Bandung to Jakarta and to other cities around. And I think that's the innovation that we really want to push.
But Ming, how has Grab disrupted the investment space for transport? Because a lot of fund managers in the room, some of us in the past had looked at bus companies as sort of stable income, dividend story, somewhat like a REIT, if you will. So how have you disrupted the incumbents?
Yeah.
And are you now disrupting other incumbents in other sectors?
Right. I think the right way to think about Grab is as a transportation marketplace. And it is about connecting supply of transportation to supply or demand from passengers in the most efficient way possible so that a person can get from point A to point B fast, safe, convenient.
So really from a product or service to a platform.
Yes, to a real platform. Now, you alluded to expansion of the business from transportation into other sectors like financial services, like payments. And we were just having this conversation in the back with Rohan. If you look at all of the great global payment companies, whether it's PayPal, whether it's Ant Financial, WePay, they were always created at the real intersection between a marketplace and a payment system. PayPal with eBay, obviously, Ant Financial with Alibaba, Taobao, Tmall, and WeChat is obvious. And it's the combination of these 2 industries where you bring the customer acquisition strength and the power of a marketplace, combine that with the convenience and the service of payments, and that's how you create amazing things. So in Southeast Asia, we believe we have a very large marketplace now, 1 billion transactions a day, and it's the frequency of usage, it's the habituation to get consumers used to using a payment product that we think will be very, very interesting in the future.
So speed, scale, ubiquity, stickiness, and building ecosystems.
Yeah.
Rohan, PayPal's been around for quite a while. You were the first disruptor.
Yep.
And you're still going from strength to strength? Or are you afraid of the rise of other payment systems from other sectors?
I think we're going from strength to strength. That's what I feel. But before I start, I would love to get a sense of a raise of hands. How many people here have a PayPal account? Awesome. That's so fantastic. Thank you. And how many don't? Okay, we should talk maybe afterwards and try to sign you up and try to sign you up with one. But just to give you a sense for those of where PayPal is, I mean, it did start about 18, 19 years ago. And it was one of the first payment providers in the world. And today it is, last year we processed totally globally about $385 billion of payment volume across the globe. Okay, about 50% of that is international. About 25% is our cross-border payments, 25 to 30%. We have about 210, some of them are in this room, million consumers globally. and about 17 million small businesses and merchants who use our service to receive funds from everywhere in the world. And we've seen a massive movement in terms of what percentage of that volume is actually going on a mobile device. That's been incredibly fast. And you were talking, Sushan, about internet connectivity, mobile phones being cheaper to use, especially in this region, and then social actually accelerating. And those three combinations have really shown this region, the entire, I run Asia Pacific, which is India, east of India, including Japan, and up down to New Zealand. And you're seeing across the board, whether it's cross-border payments or even domestic, the speed at which people are adopting this online, on social is just amazing. So you're seeing this rapid growth. And if you think about where we were, coming back to how we're going to look, how we look at the next 2037, if you think about how payments were made in, of course, before PayPal and companies like us came around, it was cash and check. That's how people were transferring money on eBay, as an example. But then and what would happen is somebody would buy something, they would send a check in the mail, which was amazing in itself, right? That people would trust each other, and send a check in the mail for 10 days for $100. San Francisco, Boston. The guys get it, they deposit it, another 4 days, and then after 14 days, sells the goods. And what PayPal was able to do was make that 14 days like 30 seconds. And when you do that, you massively increase the velocity of trade. And when you increase the velocity of trade, eBay does well, and of course, as Ming mentioned, we also get massive amounts of consumer acquisition in the process. So that was how it was done before. But you had to enter your username, you had to enter your password. If you fast forward to today, on a phone, PayPal has a solution called One Touch, where you actually, every time you do a checkout process, you enter your password once on some website, and then when you go to any other website, as long as you're on your phone, you never ever enter your password again, or your username. All that you have to do is to say, do you authorize $47.50 to be paid, and you click OK, right? Which is, again, it increases the velocity of trade, because the minute you give a person the ability to think, they actually drop off, right? That's just the way it goes.
So humans don't have to think going forward.
The less you have to think, the more efficient commerce becomes. And it's
a good thing.
Ming has a great example, right? How many all of you use Grab? How many of you think when you get out of that taxi? You just get out and you walk away, and it's a beautiful experience. So you've not only authorized a transaction, you've paid for it without even mentioning anything, and you get the SMS to say here, or the email that says here's how much you already paid, and you're comfortable with that. So all of us who use this service is comfortable with the fact that we don't have to authorize a merchant again and again every time we use their service. So if you look in 2037, I think the concept of passwords is going to be obsolete. I think the concept of usernames are probably going to be obsolete. You're going to have authentication, or whether it's 41-factor or 51-factor authentication on your phone. You're going to have geofencing. You're going to have all of this stuff. And literally, payments are just going to happen because the intelligence around the geofencing, et cetera, will enable it to happen with ease, right? And you will spend more. There's no doubt about that. But we just did a research report about payments and the payments industry. Even though you end up spending more, the fact that you have an electronic receipt of your spend means that you are more control of your spend. And you have at least an understanding of where your money is going, and you can fulfill your financial obligations better than by paying with cash. And so that's a trend that we will be seeing, I think, over the next few years.
Well, Singapore's just going through this right now, right, as we speak. Trying to get cash out of our system, trying to kill cash and go to e-payments. We've talked about the how, all four of my panelists. Can we talk about where in Asia? And I'll open this to any of you, really. And I know you're all going to say Bandung. But where in Asia, do you see in the next 10, 20 years the fastest, best disruption, the smartest cities? And where would you invest? Where would you grow? Patrick?
All right. So we're pretty much in every city in Southeast Asia, key cities, most cities in South Asia and the Middle East, and it's they're the obvious ones like Indonesia and Philippines and Thailand, which have great middle classes, and there's a huge ability to want to use digital products. And similar to what I was saying before, it's never about convincing someone to stop using a non-digital product. It's just there's just so much appetite to try new things. But where we've been really pleasantly surprised is Myanmar, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia. These are markets where most investors actually don't even want to be in these markets, and which is ironic, whereas we brought a few companies to those countries. It's our online streaming service, property portals, car portals, and so on and so forth. And it's back to what I said before, it's this huge migration from lower class to middle class that is this massive tailwind where people just have huge appetite to try new things. So then everything is new, everything's great, everything's interesting. And so, in iFlix, we track about 1,001 metrics a day. It's ridiculous. But in those three, Pakistan, Myanmar, Saudi Arabia, every metric that we track is significantly greater in those three countries. And the only thing that we can conclude is it's not that our marketing strategy is different or our product is different. It's just the propensity and the appetite from new millennials and new middle class consumers who just try anything that shows up is making us see all of our metrics outperform and making want to invest more in those economies.
So, with geofencing, beacons, data, big data analytics, etc., you don't really have to leave your home, right? I mean, Maya here is bringing doctors to villages. Grab is, changing the way we eat and live. Schools may not look the way they look today. Universities, Bandung is a great university where you came from, one of the best engineering universities in Indonesia. Schools, you don't have to go to a school to learn anymore, right? So, Maya, in your mind, for Indonesia, where obviously the adoption of technology has been fast, ubiquitous, with a very young population, do you see the smart city of Indonesia looking very different? And what's your prism for 10 years forward? Where do you see the fastest growth? Which cities?
Yeah, I think I can technically representing Indonesia. Today in Indonesia, we have 50 million strong consuming class. Yeah. Some call it middle class. This class, they travel everywhere. With Indonesia 17,000 island low-cost airline, they're getting higher buying power. So this 50 million, they buy and they change mobile phone maybe like, I don't know, twice a year, for example, yeah. And McKinsey study show us, presented by the Minister of Economy, in 15 years or 20 years, this middle class of Indonesia will be doubled to 100 million. So basically, don't miss the train. Yeah, this 100 million can buy whatever your service and products. Yeah, and
how will they buy?
Yeah, and as I said, I come from 2.5 million population with 2.2 million Facebook users. So it means all the economy will be mostly digital. Yeah. And I think whoever leads this economy with a digital approach will be the winner, in my opinion. More engagement also through this technology. And this is how it goes. So I think that's why as a politician also, I learned that if we use this trend and technology, people are happier because the service from the government is faster. For example, 2 years ago, I met with a small investor from Spain. Yeah, he told me like this, Mr. Ridwan, I have a complaint. I'm organizing a small group of SMEs wants to open business in Indonesia. It's too complicated. So at the end, we moved to Singapore. But the business is Indonesia. So they take money from us, but they pay tax in Singapore. Yeah. So.
Oh no.
Yeah. So that's not good.
Don't worry, we have tax amnesty already.
Okay. So that statement is always on my mind. So last year, I decided to take a very bold decision. I told Mr. President, City of Bandung would exercise economic reform. What is Mr. Mayor? I will not only reduce the complexity of permit for SMEs, I will totally remove. So in Bandung, business under 5,000 US dollar, no need permit. You just do your business, you report to me by mobile phone again. Yeah. Just to notify, Mr. Mayor, I'm running such and such
no
business.
tax?
No tax, of course, because you have VAT. But this is the permit process to run a business. So what happened? When we implement this concept, only 6 months, 30,000 new businesses born because of no permit policy. So you can imagine if we apply this to 500 cities, become national policies, this 100 million strong middle class, I think Indonesia, in my opinion, in the next 20 years will be a great country to invest, and Bandung will be happy to be your home base for business. Thank you.
The flight to Bandung is full. And I feel good because DBSI Indonesia just opened off our digibank in Indonesia, and I will second what May has just said. It's the take-up rate's been fantastic, and the Indonesian customers are very digitally savvy and very comfortable.
Yeah, if I can just add on to that. So I think the greatest disruption and innovation will come not from the top 10% of the population, but it's from the middle class and the lower middle class, and bringing them up to the standards and quality that's available to the rest of us. I have a PayPal account, it's very convenient. And the question that I often get asked is, what's wrong with cash? Cash is extremely convenient. If you look at Japan, 90% of all transactions are still done with cash.
It's expensive.
Exactly. And
it's expensive.
Cash
is expensive.
Exactly. What people forget is it's very...
It's free to the consumer.
Yeah, it's very expensive being poor. Very expensive being poor. We did a very recent survey of staple goods in East Kalimantan. So in East Kalimantan, if you want to buy an umbrella, if you go to the store next to the corner, it costs you $11 to buy an umbrella.
Wow.
Now, using cash. If instead you use a e-commerce platform like Tokopedia or Lazada, it costs $6. $6. It's a 40% reduction in pricing by moving from cash to non-cash. And that's the type of problems that I think moving from cash to mobile wallets, that's a real tangible improvement in somebody's lives.
Very good. Rohan?
You know, I'd like to add also to that. I think it's fantastic that you changed policy to give rise to growth, right? Especially a lot of the times what we see, compliance regulations is extremely important, and we comply with regulators, and we work very closely with regulators around the world because it's about customers' money, and also money laundering, anti-money laundering activities, et cetera, that we engage with. But what's amazing about that is out of the 17 million merchant accounts that we have, small businesses, sole proprietors, a bulk of that are about the individuals, right? The people who are doing less than 5,000. And the challenge, and a lot of people miss this when they think about payment companies. PayPal is really a risk management company. Moving money between a bank account and a credit card, et cetera, is actually relatively easy to do with a good user interface, some good coders, and you can do that. But the real challenge is how do you make sure that the people that you're allowing to accept money, the individuals, are not the bad guys. 1% of bad guys are responsible for 99% of the fraud, right? But if you get the bad guys in your system, a couple of things happen. One, when a customer buys something from you, they're not going to get the goods because a lot of these guys will say, hey, I'll ship you furniture, 6 months to take shipping times to furniture. You can buy furniture from me, I'll ship you really top grade Italian furniture or Balinese furniture, et cetera, et cetera. Money is collected, $100,000, $200,000 worth of money, and the guy is gone. Customers are then left without any goods and the money, and so they're sitting up there saying, I'll never do an e-commerce transaction again, right? And because it's not safe. So what we do, and this is really important because it is about risk management, is we will tell the customer if anything goes wrong. First of all, we have our models and our technology, et cetera, but that you can interact with this individual freelancer or small business and give them the money, because if you do not get it, PayPal will pay you for it. Okay, and we invest about $1.2 billion every year into risk management. And I think that's key here, is it is the small businesses and is the sole proprietors, right, and Ming was also mentioning, that are the growth of all our economies, right?
Well, it's the new gig economy, isn't it?
And it is, and it's about, money is oxygen, right? Without oxygen, they can't survive.
Soon, data will be the new oxygen. It already is.
It already is.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I've time checked, 13 minutes left. I thought I'll open up to the audience before I pass the crystal ball back to my panelists for them to predict, 2037 in their own specialty field. So any questions from the audience? Must be at least one or two. Yes, sir. Hugh.
The vicious,
To the rescue.
The vicious circle. So what about real estate?
I knew he was going to ask that, by the way. He is, after all, head of real estate.
Do I need to brush up my CV, or do I still have a future in my...
You're being disrupted, Hugh. Mayor, you're an architect. You used to build buildings. Now you've gone from bricks to clicks. What do you think?
No, I think there is a fundamental human relation that cannot be replaced by this digital, which is a happiness. Yeah, that's why in Bandung, even though we transform the service, 400 software I built in the last 3 years, the people engagement is very important from my perspective. Because I found several countries putting too much on economy, less to the the wellness of the mental or happiness, creating a massive issues also in healthcare costs and many more. So there is a hidden cost, yeah, if you putting too much to technology also. That's why I think in Bandung, for example, we still have. I always do a survey every 4 months to make sure whether our performance is being appreciated by the people. So it's very important. So to me, especially in Bandung, happiness comes from people meeting people. So, security, healthcare, education, of course. But number one actually is social interaction for my people. So I combine this digital selfie city, but still...
But now the social interaction is digital, right? It's all on Instagram.
So I'm creating what I call car-free day. I shut down a major road every Saturday night for festival, music, food, and so on and so on.
They actually meet each other.
Meet each other.
Physically.
Yeah. So I renovate city parks. I enlarge sidewalks. I put benches. And chairs of people talk to each other, not always talking about business, but also personal life and so on. So even now, we have what we call Sunday elderly. So every lonely senior citizen, every Sunday, they can request a company, request a volunteer to accompany them for a whole day of Sunday. So this increasing the happiness also that, city can progress, the world can change through technology, but at the end, the basic human value, happiness, people meeting people, for me, is still very important.
So Hugh, looks like the bricks are being used for more social users,
so now,
and less work-oriented,
So now
less
shopping malls,
business-oriented.
Shopping mall is transformed. Before, shopping mall is 100% for commerce, but now you have school in shopping mall, you have churches in shopping malls. You have whatever you think that can contain by this brick and mortar, you name it. Now it's become the hub of everything, not only commerce.
Very good. Any other questions from the floor?
For us, we're investing very heavily into autonomous vehicles. And I think autonomous vehicles has a very real, tangible change on the nature and the fabric of a city. It makes that commute from the outer parts of the city to the center of the city much more productive. I think it creates an ability for people to live further away from work, have much higher quality lives, but still be effectively near the office, if you will. So autonomous vehicles will certainly change the landscape of cities like Singapore and other very dense areas.
I'll touch on a little bit on commercial real estate. So we launched a co-working business in Malaysia. And what's interesting is over the last 16 years, we've been involved in a number of tech companies in Southeast Asia, and 80% of our commercial real estate leases we've gone back to the landlord to renegotiate
Down.
at some point before the 2 years end. And here's interesting, not only is it often down, it's more often up. And when you look at the velocity at which tech companies grow, it's virtually impossible for us to predict how much space we have today versus how much space we need in 2 years. And if you're in a business growing at 10% per month and you compound that, like, holy cow, you're upsizing and downsizing, tweaking at a constant rate. So this whole move towards co-working spaces is we're completely bullish on, and almost to a point where we're almost thinking of instituting across every portfolio company that we will never sign a 2-year lease again, we'll never renovate an office, we will just work with co-working spaces because we just have complete flexibility, and the topic is called on demand. We almost want real estate on demand, and I don't know if this is too bullish, but I'm pretty confident that by 2037, co-working spaces will probably fulfill anywhere from 20 to 40% of all commercial real estate space, because this whole model of committing for 2 years, get a PABX system, get a receptionist, get a security system, and then your business shrinks by 50% or your business grows by 50%, I just don't think it works for digital companies. I'm giving you this idea. We launched a co-working space in Malaysia 4 months ago as a test case, 30,000 square feet, 100% sold out within 4 months. So what we've now done is we're launching another co-working space with 150,000 square feet. We've already pre-sold 75,000 square feet. And we're not even in the real estate business. We just know how to build a website with a little bit of Facebook marketing. It's not as good as his Facebook marketing, but that's all we've done. And we filled 100,000 square feet by companies.
And you're not even in the real estate business?
We're not even in the real estate business, but it's this next generation of companies, they want their rides on demand, they want their content on demand. I believe they generally want their office space on demand as well.
So it looks like agile businesses now demand agile real estate to go with it.
And I'll tell you what blew my mind. I always thought it would be tech companies. When I looked at the client list, only 20% of the companies in the co-working space are tech companies. It's lawyers, it's accountants, it's advertising. It is not just tech companies, it's everyone.
I'm going to give the mic to Annie.
Thank you.
Last question.
Thank you. I'm just curious. I know the lunch topic is about Asia on demand, but what about Asia on supply? What happens to, if everybody's into the sharing economy, who is going to be owning the assets?
I think Ming, you're quite.
I think
because you've got
the beauty,
carpool, share a ride, share a car.
Yeah. I think the beauty of the sharing economy is you democratize the ownership of the assets, and you change from a traditional model where one group of individuals or a group of owners own all the assets and therefore have a very commanding voice over pricing, availability, et cetera, to a very distributed marketplace model where now anybody with spare capacity can then provide some service or asset to a consuming class that I think historically would have had to pay much higher prices to access those same assets. So I think within Asia and within globally, I think this democratization of asset ownership will only lead to better utilization of those assets, lower pricing for consumers, and as a result of that, better safety, better reliability, better convenience.
And possibly better productivity gains and cost saves, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, I think I'm exercising one big step today is I'm connecting my citizen, urban consumer, to the agriculture farmer. Yeah. Because so many complain, Mr. Ridwan, I'm still poor, even though I have very big of production for the rice and so on. So, because in the way we trade, farmer is always the poor side of the system. The trader is the richer part of the system. So by using the logic of the Grab and technology, I'm educating farmers now to use the mobile phone to accept the orders, to supply the demand directly. So what happened when we do compressing this, the farmer can increase the price 2 to 3 times from the existing model. And my wife can order the rice with slightly lower price instead of going directly to the market, for example. So you can imagine also, you can order directly the rice from Singapore to my farmer in such a way, creating a shared economy. So this is my job as a government, because my job is to make my people life happy and easier. So I'm very excited to use technology to whole spectrum of public service and existing economy.
And taking out the middleman, right?
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you for your questions. We have 3.5 minutes left, so I'm going to give the crystal ball to all of you, maybe starting from Rohan. 2037, Asia on Demand. What's your prediction?
So I think the first thing is that Mayor Camille is going to be the president of Indonesia. With,
I think we'll all second that.
with 250
Get his autograph.
with
now.
250
Watch me in 7
million
years.
Facebook followers. And what you've done is amazing, and actually a happy Indonesia as well at that.
And a happy wife who's
happy
buying
wife.
his rice cheaper.
I would just reiterate, I think in 2037, if I'm around and I'm still in this position, we are going to have seamless payments. I think you are not going to be worried about your payments. You're going to be in control of your payments, but you're not going to be thinking about it when you're actually interacting with the external ecosystem.
Might the phone disappear into the hand as a chip?
You might. It might. You need some interface to see something, so you may have Google Glasses or something like that as well.
Yeah. Great. Ming?
So, Papa Ridwan, I think you should consider Rohan as your running mate. I think it'd be a great supporter. I think two things. On transportation, I think you'll find half the cars on the road versus today.
Half the cars.
Half the cars.
And all obviously autonomous or
Yes,
electric.
a combination of autonomous electric vehicles. The commute time from Bandung to Jakarta, I hope, will be 30 minutes, 45 minutes, not 3 hours. That's one. On the payment ecosystem, I think CPI index will be down by 15% from today till 2037. It'll be driven down by just greater access to products, reducing the middleman, greater efficiency, going from cash to non-cash, and that will just lower prices across the board for services, products, for everybody.
So deflation's here to stay.
Deflation.
Interest rates will stay low. Right, great. Not so great for me, but Mayor, 2037, after you retire from the presidency.
Yeah, after I retire, people of Indonesia are the happiest people.
Yes.
I actually wants to pose one challenge that the audience here need to help. Yeah, we have a problem on financing urban infrastructures. Yeah, because the way we do things in government is very conventional. We just spend what we have. There is no, municipal bond is not the case yet. Yeah, PPP is still in the early infancy stage. So I think 2037, my hope is the infrastructure of cities will be financed by the private sectors. So we can have a contract for long term, like 15 to 20 years. But this PPP is not exists yet. Yeah. So we hope we can invite the private sectors to come to the city level. But as I said, if you multiply by 500 cities, the opportunity is very big. And who knows, in the future, you build us bridges or roads, and I pay you through PayPal. Yeah.
So yeah, similar.
Government account.
So I will join you then.
Don't forget DBS too.
That DBS also.
But looks like, Dr. Tay Kok Peng has also reminded me once when I did an OBOR session on infrastructure financing that, the market is ripe for creating risk management and hedging solutions, precisely for what, Mayor, you just talked about, which is infrastructural spending and the PPP and probably, more private sector debt origination there. So something for us here in the room to work on. Last but not least, you kicked us off. You shall close off this panel, Patrick.
I think
with
exactly
your crystal ball.
20 years from now, I'll be living on the beach in Bali because he's made Indonesia the happiest country in the world, and I'll be presenting from this conference using my avatar or robot in my place. And hopefully a lot of you will be on the beach in Bali as well, sending your avatars and robots.
So our avatars will be here, and we'll all be in Bali.
But that said, particularly from our business, iFlix, I think that people will have more disposable income, and I think people will have more time to entertain themselves, particularly those who go from lower class to middle class. And our crazy dream is that there'll be 1 billion people in emerging markets just giving us $1 a month to get the best entertainment content in the world.
Fantastic. So entertainment's the way to go. So on that happy note, thank you for your participation, and thank you to my very good panelists.